So in my previous video about the USS Fitzgerald, I meant to add this in there and I forgot to put it in there last night. So I'm just making a separate video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a link to that video in the description box of this video. Check out that video. And I'll also leave my how-to gematria video in that link description as well. And that will make both videos make a lot more sense. But in that previous video, I was talking a lot about the USS Fitzgerald and how it's connected to this priest that I had as a kid who is a child molester and whatnot, and his name was Father Howard Fitzgerald. You have to just go listen to what I was talking about. I'm not going to re-explain it, but just a few days after, when we finally found out who the victims were of this collision or whatever, there was a CNN article, and it said, "Father of USS Fitzgerald sailor will make you choke up." And I thought, how interesting, they even put that in there. They have a headline story about the father of one of the victims, and I'm talking about fathers, priests, whatever else. And the father, his name of the sailor here, his name is Xavier Martin, but I'll get to that in a second. But the father's name is Daryl Martin, that in reverse reduced gematria equals 87. The word priest equals 87. Howard Fitzgerald equals 87. Even just the last name, Martin, in reverse gematria equals 87. And also his son, his name is Xavier, right? And a lot of it goes back to the Jesuits that I've been talking about. And one of the founders of the Jesuits was Francis Xavier. Supposedly, Pope Francis, supposedly the first Jesuit pope, and also supposedly named after St. Francis of Assisi, the first guy to receive the stigmata. But there's more than likely he's actually named after Francis Xavier, the founder of the Jesuits. Xavier, even a Jesuit college and whatnot. I pointed out a whole bunch of other stuff in this post. I'm not gonna go over a lot of it, but maybe I'll talk about a little bit of it later on. But there's other things that I just want to point out really quick. So anyway, really quick, this kid's full name, Xavier Alec Martin, equals 175 in gematria. Pope Francis equals 175 in reverse gematria. And I went on and talked about the angel Gabriel again, and there's just been all of these connections. I'll leave a link to that video as well in the description, but there's been a lot of stuff in regards to the angel Gabriel. And on this right here, what I was talking about was one of the videos that I keep getting trolled on like crazy is my video about the death of the Axeman guy on the History Channel named Gabriel Martin Rygard. And there was stuff about Heath Ledger that I've been talking about on my blog as well, but Gabriel Martin is Heath Ledger's character in the movie The Patriot, but that equals 87. And it will make more sense here in a second, because there was all this crazy weird stuff happening to me in regards to the movie The Ring, where the girl comes and kills you after 7 days, and I watched the movie called Arrival that is about the 7-limbed aliens. And Arrival in satanic gematria equals 326, and The Ring equals 326 in satanic gematria. And that was this number that I was talking about in regards to the angel Gabriel. And supposedly there's 7 archangels. Gabriel, supposedly one of them, even though the Bible doesn't actually say that. And the same time that we got the story of the USS Fitzgerald, we also got a story about the USS Shiloh losing a sailor for 7 days, right? So this one lost a sailor for 7 days, and there was 7 people missing on the USS Fitzgerald. They were both in the same area. They were in the Pacific Ocean by Japan. So a sailor missing for 7 days, 7 sailors missing on the USS Fitzgerald. They even later went on to tell us that the USS Fitzgerald, let me find the article here, was the 7th Fleet or whatever. 7th Fleet, 7 sailors missing. And I talked about the death of Otto Warmbier, or Wormbier, not Warmbier. That's what it looks like, but Otto Wormbier, because Dennis Rodman nicknamed the Worm. But I'll come back to that in a second. I just want to go over this post here in regards to this sailor that was missing for 7 days. And, you know, the CNN article doesn't even make any sense. They tell you that he vanishes on 6/8, and then he's found on Tuesday, 6/13. How is that even 7 days? They later tell you the Navy didn't report him found until 6/15, which is 7 days. But if they found him on Tuesday, that's only 5 days. So, like, what is the point? I don't get what the purpose is to say that he's missing for 7 days. But it had to fit, you know, 7 days with the 7 missing sailors on the USS Fitzgerald. And also, in this article, they let you know that the guy who was thankful to find the missing sailor, his name was Admiral Charles Williams. Well, the USS Fitzgerald was named after a guy named William Charles Fitzgerald, right? The reflection, Charles William Charles Fitzgerald. And I was even talking about, I don't know if I talked about it in the last video, but it just reminds me of Prince William and Prince Charles. And he went missing on 6/8. Prince Charles is 68 years old right now. Prince Charles in Gematria equals 68, just like Pope Francis, just like Donald John Trump. Even Barack Obama equals 68 in Gematria. Just throwing that out there. Obama equals 84, born on 8/4. Jesuit equals 84. I mean, it all seems to go back to that. So who knows, you know? Just pointing out the 68 connections. In the article as well, they tell us that the guy who went missing was Petty Officer Peter Mims, and Gematria equals 113. And the ship that he went missing on, USS Shiloh, equals 113 in the reverse method. And if you just do his name, Peter Mims, it equals 118, just like Father Howard Fitzgerald, just like William Charles Fitzgerald, who the USS Fitzgerald was named after. And remember, he died on 8/7, just like the word priest equals 87. It's crazy, lots of connections. They also told us this guy was going to get medically examined on the USS Ronald Reagan. If you write that out, it equals 169. Something I talked about in the beginning of my last video. Father's Day was on the 169th day of the year. Can't remember what else I talked about with it, but it was significant in the beginning of the video. I also pointed out missing sailor equals 187 in reverse, just like Society of Jesus, which is the Jesuits. And then I talked about the film The Ring and whatnot, 7 days, 7 archangels, 7-limbed aliens on the movie Arrival, 7 missing sailors, a sailor missing for 7 days, you know, the 7th Fleet with the 7 missing soldiers or sailors. And in regards to Otto Wormbier, a story that we got, you know, remotely close to this, and just this is in the Pacific Ocean by Japan, you know, close to North Korea and whatnot. And I don't know. There's an interesting connection, and it's something I've been talking about a little bit as well. The Japanese said that this story happened earlier, but the U.S. made sure to say that the USS Fitzgerald collision was at 2:20, and Otto Wormbier died at age 22 at 2:20. And I talked about how the Jesuit anniversary this year is 2 months and 20 days before Pope Francis's birthday. It's also a span of 81 days. And whatever, Pope Francis is going to be 81, so it's 81 days before his 81st birthday. If you write out 220, it equals 77. Just reminding me, 7 missing, the 7th Fleet. The word Christ also equals 77. I even talked about 220 and a bunch of other things in regards to Rihanna's birthday was 2/20, and the big deal with her was Game 1 of the NBA Finals that was 3 months and 12 days after her birthday. 312, this big number in connection with the Jesuits. Pope equals 312. Pope Francis's real name in reverse equals 312. Francis Xavier, whatever it was, he died on 312, canonized or something on 312. Ignatius of Loyola, another founder of the Jesuits, became a saint on 312. So, I don't know. Throwing that in there, I think it's interesting this guy supposedly died at 2:20, and that's also the same time they reported this ship collision. And then we got John McCain. That was one of the big stories. John McCain said that North Korea murdered Otto Warmbier. And the reason that John McCain said that is because the word murdered equals 43, just like McCain equals 43. And Otto Warmbier also died 3 months, 8 days before the Jesuit anniversary. The word murder equals 38. McCain in reduced reverse equals 38. Identical to murder. The word death equals 38. McCain's birthday, also 71 days after Otto Warmbier's death. The word Catholic equals 71. I wrote in here too, the reason I bring up this story is that John McCain was in the Navy, and he was on the USS Enterprise, and this was the ship that supposedly worked with Friendship 7, Project Mercury, the one that had John Glenn on it, right? And they were the one who recovered the astronauts of that with John Glenn. The USS Enterprise was on 2/20 of the year 62, right? So another 2/20 connection. The word Navy equals 62. That's why the USS Fitzgerald has the big 62 written on it. And then, of course, McCain supposedly a POW. So the story makes sense to most people why he would say that, but there's some interesting things, you know. He'd say murdered and whatnot, and murdered equals 43, just like McCain. I also pointed out, I guess, Otto Warmbier died 6 months, 7 days after his birthday, and McCain became a POW in the year 67. Also, the day that he died was June 19th, the 170th day of the year, a day I mentioned in regards to Rihanna and a bunch of stuff with Neptune, the planet Neptune, the god Neptune, the equivalent to Poseidon, the ruler of the sea. A whole bunch of stuff with it. She's from Barbados. Their flag has the trident on it, right? What Neptune holds. And she even dabbed in Game 1 with a total score of 170. If you read out 170, it equals 241 in reverse, and also 1776 in Jewish. And when Otto Warmbier died, we were in the 241st year of the United States. John McCain's birthday, the 241st day of the year. There's more that goes along with that, but I'm going to skip over it because it might get you lost in what I'm trying to actually explain here. So, and if I could find that video, I'll leave a link in the description about Rihanna, and it hopefully will make a little bit more sense. But John McCain, also a POW, 58 days after his birthday. The word Freemasonry equals 58. And anyway, so when I was looking at this picture, some weird stuff happened to me. And this is the type of stuff that I document a whole lot. There's all of these weird occurrences. I don't understand completely how they happen. I'll be, researching something, and then the TV will talk about what I'm researching. And this is a prime example. So I was looking at this boat, and I was like, I wonder why the number 62 is on it. And I discovered really fast, I remembered that Navy equals 62. So I thought, how fitting that this boat has the number 62 on it. And maybe it's a different number, but all the pictures that I've seen, at least, that they give you in the mainstream media, They just let you see the 6 and the 2, or the word Navy equals 62. And anyway, right as I'm looking at this and I realize 62, Navy equals 62, I hear the TV say, and for whatever the reason, I don't know why Bruce Almighty was on TV. It's just, I go upstairs, the TV's always on, my girlfriend watches a lot of times The Simpsons now, but it used to be Futurama, and when that turns off, it just goes back to whatever the TV was on. So I'm just sitting there on my laptop researching whatever, and right as I'm doing this, the TV says, "Why don't you just get me a boat, Bruce?" "Yeah, big boat." And I'm like, what in the world? And Bruce Almighty's on, and his girlfriend on that movie is Grace Connolly, that equals 62. She's the one who said that. Grace Connolly equals 62. I'm looking at the 62 on the big boat, Navy equals 62. And then, for whatever the reason, not too much later, I was uploading my video about the video series about the Catholic priests, and I just clicked over on the tab to see if it was getting close to being done, because it makes my computer go a lot slower. And when I clicked on it, it just so happened to be at 62%. And I was like, how in the world is that even possible, you know? Like, what triggered me to even look at that when it was at 62% and nothing else, you know? I then went on to notice that 62, if you write it out as words, it equals 61 in the reverse method. God equals 61 in Jewish. Jesus equals 61 in reverse. I also typed out Catholic 5 to see what that equaled, and it equals 59 and then 67 in the reduced reverse. But 59 is interesting because USS Fitzgerald equals 59. Remember, it crashed in the Izu Peninsula, that equals 59 on a date numerology of 59. USS Fitzgerald even equals 167 the big way, and it was the 167th day of the year. And then in the first story or whatever, they told us about this guy right here, Bryce Benson, who equals 59. I also pointed out, because I was posting about John McCain or whatever, and if you write out 62, it also equals 38 the small way and 43 in the small way reverse. McCain equals 43 the small way, and the small way reverse equals 38. And remember, death equals 38 as well. All these other 38s that I talked about up here. Murder equals 38, McCain, death. Otto Wormbeer died 3 months, 8 days before the Jesuit anniversary. I then later posted again about stuff I've talked about with Carrie. There's something in regards to Carrie. I've been drawn to the Price is Right stuff. I've talked to, I don't know, like what the deal is with Carrie, but Jim Carrey equals 102, Price is Right equals 102, Drew Carey equals 102, Mariah Carey equals 102. I even DJ'd a party for the family with the last name Carey the day before Father's Day, and I hit a deer with my dad's car just after midnight on Father's Day. So I just talked about that again. I said Jim Carrey was born in the year 62. And then I went on to mention some stuff in regards to baseball. And I've talked about the movie Oblivion, where Tom Cruise is wearing the New York Yankees hat. And it's supposed to be about the Super Bowl, but I wondered if it was connected to the World Series, and the Yankees are super connected to the Jesuits and whatnot. There's still more to look into, you know, but in the movie Bruce Almighty, what I pointed out was that Morgan Freeman, who is God, and he's the one who gives Jim Carrey the powers of God or whatever, he's also wearing a Yankees hat. So who really knows? I mean, in regards to 9/11, there was a whole bunch of 41 symbolism that was connected to the Yankees. And if the Yankees make the World Series, it would be their 41st time of making the World Series. And in the last video, I talked about all this stuff in regards to in 2001 when the Yankees all of a sudden upset the Mariners, who won 116 games and whatnot. It was all about 41. They upset them 41 days after 9/11. And Seattle Mariners equals 179, the 41st prime number. You know, whatever. I could. You can just read this for yourself here. On July 4th, even, which was 113 days with the end date before the 113th World Series begins this year, the Yankees even lost 4-1 to the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays were the team that the Houston Astros just beat 19-1, like Society of Jesus. And then I pointed out that in 2001, the Yankees lost to Arizona, and, you know, John McCain was connected to Arizona and whatnot, and it's the 48th state. Donald Trump equals 48. There's a whole bunch of stuff with Arizona and whatnot. So, who knows? Just some more stuff I was documenting. Doesn't mean that's going to happen. Just trying to piece this puzzle together, you know. And I need to look into some other stuff. There's so much other stuff going on that I don't care really who wins. It doesn't matter to me who wins. You know that it's somehow scripted by the numbers and whatever else. So I just like to document some things and see what's going on with it, and we'll see how it keeps going, you know. But who knows? I got pretty burnt this year on a whole bunch of stuff, so I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's something. It's always been something connected to what I'm talking about, but it's never exactly what I've been talking about. So, you know, possibly it is just for the Astros, and it's just super obvious connected to the space theme. But we'll leave it at that. Like I said, just wanted to add some stuff that I forgot to put in the previous video, and it was long enough anyway, so might as well make separate videos. So, whatever. Have a good one. Peace.